Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be making part 2 of my Learn the Landing series featuring the racetrack since someone on Reddit asked me to. So I'll be talking mostly about a duo's perspective, however many of the concepts will be applicable to solo games as well, of course. So let's get started. The drops that a duo can have are this right side, this main building, and then these two smaller buildings. There's pros and cons to each area, and I will be going into them. So, with this right side, the thing to understand is that each area has the potential for max brick and metal, pretty much, which is why you land here, of course. And they're pretty similar in loot because the chest spawns are roughly balanced out by the amount of loot spawns on the floor and stuff. So, it really comes down to mats and possible rotations and positioning. So with that in mind, this spot is what I believe to be the strongest because it's more secluded and not in a basin like the other buildings. Whenever they decide to, if they do decide to contest, then they'll have high ground naturally from these hills or the mounds here or here. They can also get the most materials quickly because of the amount of wood they can get from Cactus Farm and the fences and trees here. And yeah, the only disadvantage I would say for this spot is like the surrounding rotations that can be made are not too effective since I can only realistically see this spot and then I think there's a chest spawn here being uncontested since by getting the brick and metal that you land here for, you take time to farm that other players will use to rotate. So farther rotations like these two houses or the outpost or maybe even this spot to be honest, will not be available in what I believe to be an ordinary game. Next spot that I think is I guess second best would be this split because it has the rotation to mansion and is pretty safe in a weird way since they have a lot of protection from the ocean being on one side of them. If the duo lands with one person here, they get a decent amount more loot, but there's not much mats to farm here, and it's risky if the duo from the main building decides to rush you. What you can do to counter this is just to get as much as you can quickly, and then just farm enough to hit this vent so that you can meet up with your duo. This is risky if you don't have shields and these guys pick up like scars or ARs since you can't get lasered. You just have to try to dodge the bullets and whatnot. The disadvantage to this spot is that there's no materials that are really easy to farm for them because a lot of it is brick and inefficient metal as well. So it's more time that they need to take to mine what they want to get than the team over here or the team over here. With that in mind though, if they do have the time to meet up and farm as well as rotate to mansion, then they'll be able to get a lot of wood from these trees and they'll also be able to get supplemental loot that's not too bad. This rotation is also especially easy just because there's no worry about a team from the ocean like I mentioned before. Um, if they do decide to make this rotation, it's recommended just to be wary of the storm. But with zip lines and a lot of vents nearby, it's unlikely that you'll be caught unless you poorly plan out your game, to be honest. Alright, so the next, or the worst spot, in my opinion, is the main building. The main building is good for, I would say, duos who are less confident about individual skill because they're able to land together. There's decent mats because these are all 7 to 10 hits each, the chairs, and then these wooden tables, and then the surrounding things that they can hit are relatively safe as long as they stay vigilant about just watching this one area since they're blocked off by a brick wall. It's also unlikely that a team will land here and rotate into them. And if a team lands here and rotates into them, then that's something they have to deal with, which is why I don't place this as a good spot to drop out for a duo. They have a weaker rotation of just a few buildings, in my opinion, so I don't think it's too great to land there. For solos, I would recommend landing. For solos, it's different though because the amount of loot you can get here is very good for one singular person. So you can either land in the ice cream parlor, this main building, or here, and then make the rotation that is closest and most, I would say, logical. For example, the main building loots this one, this ice cream parlor loots these two, and then it's just the same rotation, but just done as a solo. Maybe not as contested ideally, but it's just dependent on the game. So I think that's pretty much it. I say that this person should rotate using the vent because they don't have mats landing here based on what they have available to them to farm. So if they were to try to make a rotation to the teammate through walking and they get focused, then it's really inconvenient. But they can also pick up a decent amount of metal from hitting the tires because the tires are really efficient metal, but it's just a risk that they can weigh based on however they feel. Alright, I think that's my video. So thank you to whoever made it to the end. Like, comment if you want to. Thank you to the person on Reddit who suggested it. See ya.